to you courtesy of the red, white, and blue.
It's time for Veterans Issues, the show that brings you information about veterans, military, and their family. Now here's your host, Ken Robbins.
Welcome to Veterans Issues, and we are brought to you by the Red, White, and Blue. Today's show is going to be about a subject that we don't like to talk about that much, but we're going to have to do it because I tell you every week about the 22 veterans we lose and suicides. Come back, we're going to talk with Cody Hale. Stay where you are, get a pen. Be right back. Welcome back to Veterans Issues. Today's guest is Cody Hale. He's the lead pastor out at Iron City Baptist Church. And for a disclaimer, he's my pastor, and I've invited him on the show today to talk about something that I discuss every week with you, and it's the 22 veterans that we lose every day with the suicide. And it's not just in the veteran population, but it's in the community, and that's what we want to talk about today. Welcome to the show, Cody.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Happy to be anywhere, I mean.
That's right.
I checked the obituaries this morning. You wasn't in there.
Oh, well,
I went to the H's, then I went on to R's.
That's a good day then, isn't it?
I started calling you, tell you you're not in there, but but a little background on you from things I don't know. You were from this area?
I am. I grew up in White Plains.
White Plains.
Graduated from White Plains High School. Graduated from Jacksonville State University. So yeah, I'm a Calhoun County guy all the way through.
JSU, what did you graduate? What did you major in?
Communication and public relations.
Oh Lord.
Yeah.
And I'm talking. Oh man, I'm out of my rank today. Well, you communicate good from where I watch you on Sunday. You and I started talking about this a while back, and I'd invited you on here because the Iron City Baptist Church. I want to sell Iron City because I've been to a lot of churches here in the area, and nothing wrong with those churches. It's just that there's something about the Iron City, the welcome, and when you come in there, if you don't feel welcome at Iron City, then you don't need to be going to church. You need to be somewhere else because they will let you know real quick that they appreciate you coming out there. And we found that out there, but the suicide thing that I told you, I said, let's pick a subject, and that's something near and dear to me because I call myself talking people off of the ledge. Mm-hmm. And on Facebook, I saw you saying something the other day about being a first responder. Pastors are first responders. And I got thinking about that. You know, when people go to the hospitals and people are facing death and things like that, you are the first responder on call. I never thought of it that way. And suicide would be one of those things. There's lots of reasons. People leave notes as to why they do that. What are your thoughts on people that are just facing the end of it? And I want it from a religious perspective too, about how God looks at things like that.
Yeah, I think when we talking about an issue of suicide, you're talking about something that is incredibly complex, something that's very multi-layered. I mean, when you get to that level of despair and you get to that level of hopelessness, there's a lot of things that are playing into that and contributing to that kind of causes a person to get to that place. You can think about things that can be clinical depression. You know, there can be an illness. Physically, you know, we can be so unhealthy physically that we get to the place that we want to die. You even think about in 1 Kings chapter 19, a man named Elijah, considered one of the greatest men of God. And he goes and he has this moment where he calls down fire from heaven. And at the end of the day, he says, Lord, just let me die. I'm ready. I want to die. And obvious depression. And so there's a lot of different layers. When you talk about notes and you talk about you talk about getting to that place where you really, essentially, a person that is suicidal is a person that thinks there's no other way.
Right.
That they're backed up against the wall, and that essentially, if they don't end it now, it's just going to continue to spiral.
Right.
So all of those other things, I would say, Ken, are a symptom of something bigger. That when you think about notes and you think about the despair and you think about the hope, all of those things are a symptom of something bigger. First of all, we know that in the scriptures, that when we get into Genesis 3, that God made the world perfect in Genesis 1 and 2, that there was no death, there was no war, there was no strife, no conflict, no trouble. But then Genesis 3 happens. And so in Genesis 3, sin comes into the world, and when sin comes into the world falls, and it's filled with brokenness, and it's filled with pain, and that's when division comes amongst brothers, and war is a product of that. The fact that we even need militaries is a product of that. But as a result of that, Jeremiah tells us in chapter 17 that our hearts are exceedingly wicked and deceptive. In other words, our hearts convince us that something is true that is not true. And I think when a person gets to that place where they say, there's no way out, there's nothing that I can do, there's no hope for me, it feels 100% true to them in that moment. There is no questioning the despair that they feel. There is no questioning the hopelessness that they feel. But the truth of the matter is that is a deception of their heart. It is something that is deceiving them. It is the short-sightedness of their own limited perspective on life that is telling them there's no better way, because the truth is every family that has endured a suicide and has had to kind of clean up in the aftermath of a suicide will tell you there was another way.
Absolutely.
There was another way.
And I will tell you that at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, a lot of the GIs that were coming back from Afghanistan would leave notes. And some of the notes, I was talking to some of the psychiatric people in the VA, and they were talking about the notes were saying, there's no job. I can't take care of you. I'm better. You're better off with me gone. You can draw these kind of benefits if I'm out of the picture. They'd leave notes to that effect. In other words, they did it as a heroic thing, you know.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? That they were saying, I'm going to do you a favor because I love you. And I could never equate love to taking your own life. I say, like you said, there's got to be another way. I've had veterans, and some of us watch this show will know who I'm talking about, but I've talked them off a ledge. But you know where to talk them off the ledge? They go to the churches over in Birmingham and St. Clair County and stuff like that. That's where got themselves into the right path now, that they are worth, their life is worth something. When you go through a divorce and all those kind of things, a lot of times the guys, you know, I've lost everything, but you haven't. And they found it in God. And that's one reason I want you on here today, because I want the spouses out there that's watching us and those veterans coming home that there is another way other than doing that.
That's right, yeah. So we would understand that the gospel is the answer to this, right? That seems cliche, and that seems so like the Sunday school answer, and so many but it's the truth. You think in Matthew chapter 9, you have this woman that has the issue of blood. She's been a societal outcast. Nobody in society touches her. Nobody in society is around her. Most likely her husband has abandoned her. And she goes up, and this woman, the Bible tells us that she had seen every doctor in the world. She had spent every dollar that she had ever made or ever been able to earn trying to get well. And she was at the end of the rope in utter despair, and she goes and she grabs a hold of Jesus. And Jesus, rather than being repulsed by her like everyone else, instead invited her to come and made her well. And that's how I understand the gospel in these contexts. It is you have someone that comes and they feel like there is nothing I can do for my family.
You just hit on something. In the high schools especially, the self-esteem problems, the I can't fit in this group problems, the bullying, all the things that happen in teenagers' lives and stuff like that, they run in that same situation. And somebody has to reel them in. You know, if you can't get to them, somebody's got to let them know that they're worth, that they're not an outcast like you was talking about.
Well, and that's where the church comes in, because you see, Christ doesn't just call us to be a part of the gospel; He calls us to be a part of the gospel community. So there are brothers like you and I. You and I have very different backgrounds. Yeah. You and I are different generations. But we're brothers, and there's a family in that. So Jesus saves us from our sin, and He brings us and adopts us into a family that can give us a support system, that can give us somebody that I can be completely vulnerable with, somebody that I can be myself with. I don't have to put on airs. I know that's not how we often feel when we go to church, but that's the picture of the gospel.
Hold that thought, because I want to talk about that more. That you do. There is somebody out there that you can talk to that maybe not your same age group or whatever. Because I'm about 2 years older than Cody, but
maybe a year and a half.
We'll be right back after this break. Go back. Welcome back to Veterans Issues. We're talking with Cody Hale today, the lead pastor out at Iron City. I hope you get that phone number that we put up here under his picture. And he may not even want me to give it out, but I'm giving it out to you. It's a 256-282-5134. That's a lifeline you can call if you need him. And I've called it, and I guarantee you he'll answer it eventually. He's a busy man. But you were talking about the groups that even though you may be a male talking to female, older talking to younger, you got to get into that and understand where they're coming from. And I think you do that very well. Your sermons some of them are way beyond your years because you've studied it. You know what you're talking about. But this is a subject that a lot of people don't even think about if it didn't happen in their home. They don't realize what's around them, who's hurting on Sunday morning.
That's right.
Yeah, I've seen you touch on things like that, to what's in people's hearts and stuff there, but you don't know. But the girl that's sitting over there is 18 or 19 years old. She may have just feel like she's the end of the rope because she's outcast by the upper group. You know, I've seen this in my life, and you have too, I'm sure. So they've got to understand that there's somebody out there, and you don't have to see him, but you can talk to him.
Well, and the stats bear that too, Ken. You know, it says that according to the study in 2013 done by the government, one person commits suicide every 13 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
One veteran commits suicide every 65 minutes. And so you think about how high those, among teenagers, the second leading cause of death is suicide.
Come on.
Among those in their early 20s, the second leading cause of death is suicide. Among all people, it's the 10th leading cause of death.
Parents that are watching today, let's stay on that. We'll get away from the veterans in a minute. But you got a teenager, boy or girl, their behavior changes. It's noticeable.
That's right.
But you don't know what it's causing. And you got to find some way. You can't just go at that moment and have a relationship with that child when they're at their most vulnerable point and they just feel like everything's down. All of a sudden, you decided to befriend that child. Sure. Where were you 6 months ago before this happened?
Right.
And that's something that, I hear this from you on Sundays, about the kids out there, the children. They need to be nurtured now to understand that not just at the church, not just Cody Hale, but they can come to parents and talk about what's going on at school. And then the schools, thank God I've had some good people from the Oxford schools on here. They do recognize those situations. And it could be from bullying. It could be just from low self-esteem or something.
And that's where we go back to what we were talking about earlier. The word that you've probably heard me use 100 times on a Sunday, and the word we're trying to use a lot in our church, we consider ourselves a family, a church family. Sure. And so anytime we reference what we're doing, because we want to see that this isn't just a superficial thing where we come together and do our Sunday morning deal and go back home. We want to be a part of one another's lives, and that means being a part of the hard stuff and being transparent with one another and talking about stuff that we're struggling with and things that are, because when you're talking about this, and if there was somebody listening today, the one thing that I would say is right now, you've got to have help from somebody.
Yeah. You've
got to, if it's a teenager being bullied, if it's a veteran that feels like they're at the end of their road, now, they've got to have a family of people that is committed to them for the long haul, that they can be honest with, and that they can trust will not just always tell them what they want to hear, but tell them the truth and be honest with them in love and gentleness and in kindness, but honest. And I think that's what we're trying to. So right now we have 4 pastors at our church.
Yeah.
We are willing to talk to anybody, anytime.
Go anyway. One of the reasons I wanted you on here today was not for the 4 pastors, but because when these people, and our audience out here, a lot of veterans are over in Afghanistan right now. I say veterans, a lot of our military over there now, and their spouses are home. Right. The spouses need to, at this time, to find a church, a church.
That's right.
That welcomes that soldier, sailor, airman, whatever, back home. And they need to get back into a church setting, wherever that might be, as soon as possible. And that's because I've seen the setting at Iron City, and I can say I would feel good about telling any of our veterans out there that they would be welcome there. But the congregation, I'm surprised how many veterans you got in there.
Yeah, we have a lot. They range from early 20s up into the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, a lot of them served in the same era that I served, and a lot of them are the younger ones, and they are really, you could open up a half of the church for the veterans out there. So there's always going to be somebody there that you can talk about. And our Sunday school class, it's hard for our teacher to keep these guys from talking to me about veteran stuff.
Right.
Just interrupt the.
That's right.
But he's a veteran too, so it makes it all right. But I want to make sure we cover as much as we can. We've talked about the children. We talked about the families. If we got somebody out there watching right now, they can call that number. And you're not just by yourself. You got other pastors that if one of you don't catch it, the other one will catch what's going on in that situation. In the home, there's a lot of things that's private. So if they call you and say, my husband is acting strange. He just got back from Afghanistan. can you talk to them? You know, that's the first thing is they don't want to feel like they're being confronted. They
Right.
you gotta have some way that they can come to
We are
a,
confidential. If it's not in an issue of abuse or an issue of safety, we maintain complete confidentiality. And I'll say something else. You know, we have in 1 Peter chapter 2, he talks about how we as God's people are a royal priesthood, and so we believe that we are a priesthood of believers. So what that means is all of us are inhabited by the Holy Spirit of God. It means all of us have the Word of God, and we're able to take those things so not just our pastors, but every member, some of them veterans like you're talking about, all of us are able to counsel one another. We are counselors for each other. We are able to support one another because the Lord has built it so that all of His people are indwelt with that wisdom and indwelt with, now they don't always show it. You know, some people are thinking, I've met some Christians that don't look like that, and they don't always show it.
Right.
But the way when the church is functioning as the church is intended to function and living out the gospel as she's intended to live out the gospel, so it gives you a support system that can support a mom whose husband is overseas, and that's something that we would take very seriously. We would see it as our responsibility to fill in that void, and then whatever other issue that would arise.
I've had a lot of people on here talking about support groups for those that are deployed. You got a wife back here, she becomes a husband, she becomes the doctor, the nurse, the financer. She's all those things
That's right.
by herself, and so she's got a load. She needs to have some place that people understand her and let the kids go off. So you got a great nursery over there. That put the kids over there for a while. Come on in and be welcomed by the ladies. That would be something I think would be for the spouse that's left behind, because they're serving too. And
That's exactly right.
We're down to a minute and a half. I want you to make sure that you got a message. We'll get camera 3 to get you and leave me out of the picture, whatever. But I want you to tell folks that if they're in despair, that Iron City is a place that they can come for being lifted up.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say, if right now you're at a place in despair, I don't just invite you to come to Iron City, I invite you to come to the gospel. Because our church is intended to be a hospital for sinners, and you need a hospital. You need help. You need to be a place where you don't have to pretend like you have it all together. You need a place where you don't have to feel like you have all of the answers, because the truth is you're at the place you are because you don't. And not even saying that we have all of the answers, but we want to bring you and show you what it means to be a part of something that's real and something that's sincere, and then walk you through the gospel, which gives hope to every despairing heart. That's why Jesus came. Jesus came because all of creation was in despair, and He came to make it right, and He did that through His death on the cross and His resurrection from the dead. And so the hope that we have to offer you is so much bigger than ourselves, and I hope that you will take it up. You can look us up on our website at www.ironcity.org, and you can listen to sermons and you can learn about our church. But please,
I think you
just
can call
go.
me.
Or you can call Ken.
We run out of time, Cody. I think so. Maybe we got to do this once a month. What do you think?
Just let me know.
I got you on camera saying that, so
Yeah.
you can't back out of it. We got to go to a break. Come back. I got news that you can use. Stay where you are. Welcome back to Veterans Issues. I got somebody in the control room that's messing with my ears. Anyhow, I appreciate Cody Hale coming on here and doing this today, and I'm serious that we may have him back on here to do this on a regular basis, because there's some people out there in need, and all live, not just veterans, but they need to know that there's help out there. So, like you said, the hospital. I never looked at it like that, but it's so true. I want to remind you about the parking thing over there. You don't believe that people still don't have the address. Now, I didn't get a call last week, but the week before I did, that somebody don't know. It's 2415 7th Avenue North, 2415 7th Avenue South there in Birmingham is the new parking deck. It's just for the veterans going to the VA hospital, and it's our parking. It's not shared with UAB or anybody else. So 2415 7th Avenue North. South, S-O-U-T-H, South. And I want to remind you about that law enforcement tag. They'll pull it up in the control room there in a minute. The law enforcement tag is what we use to build the law enforcement memorial up there in Anniston. Look at that tag. Now that goes with every color vehicle you have, but look at that shield and that rose. That is the symbol for the law enforcement fallen, those that's killed in the line of duty. If you got that on your vehicle, it makes a statement about the person that's driving the car. It doesn't mean that you're a safe driver, but it does say that you respect those who have given their life in law enforcement. So when you go to get your tag, consider that, and that revenue from that tag is what we take care of that memorial up there, because each time we lose an officer in the state of Alabama, we have to engrave the name up there, and it's not cheap, but that's how we do it with that law enforcement proceeds. I did tell you about Representative K.L. Brown had voted for that $800 million prison bill. He did vote for it, but he was misled by the governor's liaison. The governor's liaison had walking the floor with a clipboard saying Ken Rollins is on board with this bill, and he told several legislators that same thing. I was not on board with it, and KL voted based on thinking everything is okay. So I'm giving him a pass on that. The others I'm not giving a pass on. So I'll let you know when we go back into session, because I'm sure there'll be another bill that affects veterans. Let's see what else I got. Oh yeah, the DAV van, the DAV, Disabled American Veterans van, they need drivers. And so if you interested in volunteering to drive the van to take veterans to Birmingham, Paul Brule is the one that takes care of that program. You can give me a call and I'll put you in touch with Paul, and you can give your service to the veteran. Paying it forward. I haven't mentioned this a while. I got to do that this morning at Dunkin' Donuts. I get to do it a lot there. My daughter called me the other day and said, Dad, somebody paid it forward for me. So I'm paying it forward for the one behind. The deal was she paid $2 and something, and then for the one behind her was $7. And I, wait a minute, we don't. Anyhow, it's a blessing that you get for paying it forward. So if everybody do that. And then at Dunkin' Donut one morning, they said after I had paid it forward, 7 people paid it forward. I want to remind you, on July the 2nd in Zen Park, the community kitchen is going to have a program there, and they're going to have a whole lot of, they're going to have food, drinks, and all kind of covered dish and everything in Zen Park on July the 2nd. And that's our community kitchen with, let's see, who is all this people? I got phone numbers here, 256-405, 893-43, 256-499-5025. And if you're interested in that, give them a call. Okay, let me see. I'm running out of time here. They're telling me in the control room. So, got unserviceable flags, 15th Street. There by Rite Aid is a place to put your unserviceable flag. This salute goes out this week to all those that purchase that law enforcement tag, and all those that are serving in law enforcement. This is for you. We'll see you next week. The 30th of May in Centennial Memorial Park, the 30th of May, Memorial Day. See you there.